that it? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining my talk. I'm Jonas from EclipseSource. We are a company supporting our customers in building tools and IDEs. And in recent years, a lot of these tools contain AI components. They're AI augmented, AI powered, if you will. And today I would like to talk about an open source project that we are heavily contributing to, which is an open and flexible AI-driven IDE. Anything that you see today is completely open. You can download it, you can use it for free, you can use it for your own project. I would like to first introduce the vision and then play some music. That's in another room. And then show the proof of concept in a demo. And the good news for you today, in case you're not so much into slides, but rather want to see something in action, I will keep the intro very short and I will mainly do a demonstration, which is a little bit risky because demonstrating something that heavily relies on internet connection is already a risk, but demonstrating something with an LLM that is not really deterministic is even more risk. So if something doesn't work, please bear with me. And if something works, I mean, it's always then up to the LLM. Maybe you can show the LLM some appreciation so it does continue to work. All right, so let's dive into that. So what is our motivation? I would like to keep this short, but if we look at tools and IDEs, the whole space, since over 20 years, this is a area where open source is really a key thing, right? Most of the big tools that we have used for the last 20 years are open source. They're free to use. As a developer, you can adapt them and you can look at the source code. However, in very recent years, if we look at AI solutions, and especially the most favorite one, they're not open source anymore. They are proprietary. And we have many examples like GitHub Copilot, Cursor, and so on. These tools are not open source. Now, why is that a problem? I mean, I could list the classic advantages of open source, but I would like to highlight one thing. If we allow an AI to access our workspace, we basically send the most sensitive thing we have as developers, the source code, to some solution that we cannot look into, right? So there is a lack of transparency. Also, we cannot adapt the solution, right? We kind of take it as is. We kind of lose this advantage of innovation in the open source space. And I don't want to ramble on. What we want to do, we want to turn this trend around. We want to build something completely open, where you have full flexibility, full openness, and full transparency. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Now, before I present the vision, I quickly would like to introduce four components that play a role today, just that you are aware of what I'm showing you. So these are the parts that my demo consists of. The first thing is we have the Theia platform, in case you don't know that. That's a technology or a framework that allows you to build tools and IDEs, custom tools and IDEs. If you want to build a tool for engineering, for software development, for finance, or whatever, you can use this technology to ease your life. It's the next generation platform at Eclipse, right? So it's web-based, it's very modern. So if you have an existing Eclipse-based tool and you want to migrate something, that's a good option. The second thing, that plays a role today is the Theia IDE. That's a standard software development tool, very similar, for example, to VS Code. That's a tool that you can just download and use as a software developer, and this is built upon the Theia platform. The third thing is a framework called Theia AI. Theia AI is part of the Theia platform, and as the name implies, it's a framework that eases your life if you want to build AI assistants. So it supports features like talking to an LLM, managing your prompts, dealing with variables, data access, and all these standard common functionalities. So if you want to build an AI-based tool yourself, this is the framework to look at. And now finally, we have used the first three things to enable AI support in the Theia IDE. So in this end-user tool, we have built AI features that I will demo in a second. So what I'm showing you today is built on the Theia platform. It's an extension of the Theia IDE, and it uses Theia AI. Sorry for the confusing names. All right, now last slide for today, before I dive into the demo. What was our vision when we started this? So we wanted to build an AI-powered IDE, and we used the Theia IDE for that. and we wanted it to be open, transparent, and flexible. And so that you as a developer have full control and insight on what is happening. If this sounds very abstract to you, I will show you a very concrete example of what that means. Now, how did we do that? What we actually did is we used a couple of capabilities that Theia AI, the framework, provides us. And these capabilities are typically meant for tool builders, meaning for people that build their own tool. And these important capabilities are, first of all, it's tailorable and extensible, so we can add easily own features, own user experience, elements, and so on. Second, we have a full control of the communication. So whatever, we can control every character that is sent from our tool to the LLM and comes back. We have control over the data interaction. That means we can control which data is, for example, grabbed from our workspace. We have a very flexible prompt management, so we can easily adapt the prompts if we want to change something in the behavior and so on. And we have full flexibility in choosing LLMs. That means we can not only connect to one, but we can also connect, for example, to LLMs that we host ourselves or even local ones. And I will show you that today. Now, these capabilities are typically important if you build a tool, right, in the process of building it. However, in the Theia IDE, because we wanted to build something really open, we expose all this to the end user. So you as a developer can do all this stuff in your IDE without recompiling, just live. All right, enough of the vision, theoretical explanation. Let's just look at that. And now I'm a little bit nervous. As mentioned, demoing LLMs is always fun. All right, the first thing that I would like to show you is what means full control of communication and what means prompt management. I will combine these things because they fit nicely into one demo. And what I will show you is code completion. So let's go to the Theia IDE. So this is the Theia IDE. I have a very simple TypeScript project in my workspace. I try to keep the examples as easy as possible that it's possible to follow. Yeah, but you will get the point. So code completion. Let's do that. And that's the most interesting part for today. All right. This was actually AI-powered code completion. Looks very simple, but if you think about that, no static code completion tool could do that because it somehow magically guessed that I want to log hello world. And it did that because it looked at the function name. So it kind of guessed, okay, typically all people do hello world there, right? I will not do more complex code examples today because you know tools like this, and it can do that, right? If you would have no very complicated tool, in many, many cases, it will be able to complete the right line for you. Instead, what I would like to show you, who of you has used a tool like this, a code completion tool, in any other? Maybe half of you. Have you ever wondered what the tool actually sends to the underlying LLM? Most people don't know. In Theia IDE, we can actually look at that. So there is a history view, and now I cannot. Why can I not? I think that's because, here. And I see the different agents here, and I can select code completion. And now I see the history of my communication. So I can review what my tool has sent to the underlying LLM. And we can see there is a prompt here. You're a code agent. It sends the file. And here we can see the code that it sends. And there's a marker here in the middle where it asks the LLM to complete that. And that's how it works. Pretty simple. Of course, you could do more sophisticated stuff. But now we know what our tool does. We know exactly what information it sends. And as viewing is always boring, we can also modify that. Now, I'm switching to another view called the AI configuration view, where I see all my agents again, and I click on code and completion. And here now I see the prompts. So the prompt is the text that the tool puts before your request, basically. And now I can click on edit. Now this is the prompt that we have seen now in the history view, but in a file editor. And as you can guess, I can modify that. And now why is this useful? Maybe the tool doesn't behave as I want, right? Maybe I want to augment that, for example, for code completion. I could add my own coding style, right? Your own coding guidelines, and that's actually very easy to do. So if you think about the simple example I've done, in real life, you don't want magic strings, right? So I could say, always extract strings to constant, like this. And now just close this and just do it again. And now I've modified my prompt. So if I do this again, you can see now I changed the behavior. Just by modifying one file. And you can, if you imagine where this can go, you can do anything, right? You can literally modify the prompt as you like. I could do a presentation only about this feature for half an hour, but I won't, because I have more to show. All right. Oh, that's the video that I don't want to show. Next thing that I would like to show is choice of LLMs. Proprietary tools often force you to use one specific LLM, including a paid subscription. We don't do that. You can use any LLM you want, and let me show that to you. So let me go back to the tool. To show that, what I will do is I will show you the chat that we of course have. So this is a basic chat, and here you can talk to the LLM. And now I can ask, for example, which LLM are you? And it tells me it's ChatGPT 3.5, which is actually wrong. You might know LLMs can typically not answer these questions. And the reason it tells me that is if I look at this, the chat agent that I'm currently talking to, there is actually a setting here where I can choose which LLM I want to talk to, right? So I could, for example, now change this to another OpenAI one, so I'm connected to an OpenAI account. However, it gets more interesting when I think about other ways to host this. So for example, if I host my own LLM on my own node, I could connect to that too. We support the OpenAI API and VLLM. We also support OLlama. That's another technology to very easily start LLMs either hosted or locally. And the last thing that we currently support is a standard called Llama file by the Mozilla Foundation, which wraps an LLM into one executable file. Again, very easy for hosting. What I actually want to show is I can not only connect to remote running LLMs, I can also connect to local LLMs that are running on my machine. Of course, I have to take smaller ones, so they fit on my machine, and I don't have a graphic card. But let me actually show that to you. So in my settings of my IDE, there is Llama file here. Let me open that, scroll there. This is what I'm looking here. So in my settings, I have added a Llama file. The model is Llama 3.2, so an open source model published by Meta. And this is now in my downloads folder, and I just specify the port. And with this setting, I can now start this Llama file with a command. I can select which one to start. There's only one. And now on my machine, there is an LLM running with, I think, 1 billion parameters or so. And let me close this. And now this often goes wrong, but let's check which LLM are you? Sorry. That cannot work because I have not changed the settings. So now I'm telling the agent that I'm talking to use the new model, right? So that's, otherwise it wouldn't work. And let me change this. Which LLM are you? And now it tells me, okay, I'm talking to a different model. Now this is running on my local machine. If you think about the use cases, there are many environments where you're not allowed to connect to any cloud environment, when you have internal networks and so on, and you can easily switch to these models just with one click. And I can configure that in the Theia IDE per agent. So I could even talk, like for example, the code completion agent could talk to one, and the chat could talk to another one. All right, let's dive into the next demo. Transparent variables and tool functions. So this is about what information or what additional information is actually sent from your IDE to the underlying LLM, right? And that's very important because, as you might know, LLMs can typically answer questions well if they have the corresponding context. If you just ask questions without context, they can typically not do a very good job. So how does that work in the Theia IDE? So let me actually switch this back to Yes. All right. Now let me open some code again and show you what I mean with transparent context. All right. So here I have some code. Now let's assume I don't understand this code and I want to ask the LLM for help. So what I can do is I can say, what does this code do? And now it asks me, which code do you mean? And the reason for that is in the Theia IDE, the default agent, we do not magically add any data because we don't want, we want to provide full transparency. We don't want that the user automatically sends some data without knowing. But I can very easily change that. Now the first way that I can change that is by manually providing the context. So instead of asking the previous question, I can say, what does this code do? And then with a variable, I can provide the current selection. There are many variables. I could also provide the current file, blah, blah, blah. Many, many, many possibilities. And now let's look at that again, and now it knows my current context, right? So it knows what I've selected. Now, what if I not always want to do that myself, right? What if I always want to refer to the current selection? Now, that's an easy problem to solve, because I can modify the prompt, right? So let me go to the universal agent that I'm currently talking to and just edit this. And then somewhere at the end, I could say, this is the currently selected code. And now what I use here is the same variable, but in the prompt template. And you can use that in any prompt template. So selected text, just like this. And then let me start a new chat and ask again, what does this code do? And now it knows that, right? Because I've just added that. Now, if we think a little bit about that, now I have statically added some context to my prompt, which is always sent. What would be for many use cases more convenient if the LLM could actually decide which content to grab. And this is another concept that we also support that we call tool functions. We basically tell the LLM, hey, here are functions that you can call to get additional information or to do additional things. So for example, to create files or to browse files. And I have one example here in my in the IDE again, which is called the workspace agent. The workspace agent can access files in my workspace. So let's ask the workspace agent something. And by the way, I can refer to agents here by pressing add. And now let's ask the workspace agent how to execute this project. Like this. And now what we can see is it looks at the file list of the workspace, and now it has actually accessed 2 files. And we can even look exactly what files those were, like this. It has access to package.json, which makes sense. And it answered the question correctly. And what we can see here, npm run ausführen, which is a German word, this is special to this project. So it didn't just guess how to execute the project. It really looked at the file, and I can preview that if I open the package.json here. Here. So this is really weird. No LLM could know that without looking at the file, right? And again, I could use these tool functions in the prompt templates. Last thing that I would like to say about variables, we have some transparency here again. If variables or tool functions are used by agents, we show that to the user. So for example, if I look at the universal chat agent here in the configuration view, I see down here under used variables that it uses selected text. Or for the workspace agent that I've just shown, I know that it uses these 2 functions. So as a user, you actually see what agents will do. And if I don't like that, another feature, I can just deactivate them, right? Now this agent would not be talked to anymore. All right, let me go to the next thing, orchestrating agents. You might have noticed for the last demonstration, I've explicitly talked to certain agents, for example, the workspace agent. Now, as a user, this is a little bit cumbersome because now I have to know, okay, if I have a question that requires knowledge from the workspace, I have to talk to this agent. If I have a coding question, I have to talk to this, and so on. Now, to avoid that, we have one special agent that is called the orchestrator. And the purpose of this agent is actually to find the right agent for you. And now, how does it do that? Let me actually enable this. And now click Edit to show you the prompt template. So here, it says your task is to identify which chat agent should be best to reply, blah, 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 blah. And at the end, it has a variable called chat agents, which contains all the other agents in my system, right? So it is aware of all the other agents. And now let's check whether that works. We start a new chat. So now I ask a question without talking to a specific agent, I just ask the question. For example, what TypeScript version is this project? And now we see the orchestrator has quickly determined which is the right one to use, and then it has forwarded this to the workspace agent because it knows from the description, okay, this is the one who can actually look at files, this is the right choice, and it answered the question correctly. I will not prove that to you, it's in the file. But again, you can see it actually looked at the package JSON, obviously. All right. Now, before I continue with the next demonstration, one thing that I would like to mention in between, because the next thing that I show you go more into extensibility. So the thing that I'm showing you today, just as a reminder, that's an experimental feature that we have integrated in the Theia IDE that you can download and use yourself, meant for developers. The underlying thing that enabled us to build this very efficiently is a framework called Theia AI, which is actually used by quite a lot of projects already. And that the purpose of this framework is to build things like this, but you can also use Theia AI for non-code centric tools, like domain-specific tools. You can integrate it with diagrams, with forms, custom languages, anything. And what's nice about this framework, it's really very flexible. The core thing here are agents, which are the components that wrap the communication to the underlying LLM. Another component is the chat that we have seen that you can optionally use. However, you can also integrate AI into other places than just the chat. And in very many tools, it's a good idea to not always use a default chat, but really bring the features very close to existing editors or user experience. Now, I want to like to show one example for that. How to integrate the UX directly into the use case and not always using a plain chat. And the example that I would like to show is a terminal agent that is available again in the Theia IDE. So let's go back. So in the Theia IDE, we have an integrated terminal. Let me make that colorful. And now we have an agent that is directly integrated here that is not available in the default chat that helps me to create terminal commands, right? Complex ones. So, I mean, we are all developers, or many of you are developers. We know how to git commit, but if you typically have something like, I don't know, I want to delete the second latest commit from the branch and then cherry pick it over there, this is exactly what you can do with that. Now, let me show you one example and open this file here. Now I can press Control I, and now, as you can see, this is directly integrated in the terminal view. It's still based on Theia AI, so I don't have to use the default chat. And now I can ask something, replace all strings world with add in all files. Let's see what it does. So now it asks, oh, that looks good. I don't know, I will run it. So with enter, I can add it here. And let's just run it. It actually didn't do. So it didn't work. So bear with me, but that's the beauty of talking to LLM. Typically, it can do these things pretty well. I don't know what, can somebody tell what's wrong? Very quickly? No. Anyway, but you get the idea. So anything that, in this case, ChatGPT could answer, this can answer to, because currently it uses ChatGPT as a model, right? All right, and the final thing, or final demo that I would like to show today is again about extensibility. And that's about a capability again of Theia AI that we call custom response renderer. And the idea here is to make results of the underlying LLM more actionable to the user. Because typically, again, if you build your own tool or if you work in the Theia IDE, you want to make it as easy as possible for your user to apply the result. And sometimes it's the answer to a question, that's it. But for example, if it's a quick fix or a code completion or something like that, it's much more convenient if the user can just press a button, right? So let me show you that. In the chat, we have quite a lot of so-called response renderers, and they will be actually activated if the LLM returns a certain result. So the simple one is, let me show you that, is the code response renderer. So let me say translate this code to Spanish, and that give it the selection, this. And now it translates that, and now we can see this code is rendered with syntax highlighting, and I can directly insert that, right? So this is the idea of custom response renders. I don't have to copy that anymore. Another example of a response renderer is used by the command agent. The command agent in the Theia IDE is aware of all the commands that you can execute in the IDE, and it can help you to find the right one. And as you will see in a second, it can also execute that. So for example, I can say toggle the toolbar, and now it talks to the command agent, and it doesn't only tell me what to do, it makes this actionable, again with a response, and now I can press this and toggle the toolbar, right? And these things are very easy to do, so it's literally just providing an HTML element. So if you have a custom tool where you want something like this, right, I don't know, apply, fix, generate documentation, whatever, you just have to basically provide the HTML for this thing that is displayed here, and of course the behavior, what should happen then, right? Very, very simple to extend. All right. Sorry, there's one more thing. That has actually been implemented last week. That's why I forgot it. This is not in the release yet. It will be released in 2 weeks. And it's called custom agents. And the idea here is, if you use Theia AI, you can actually very easily write your own agents. This is the code that you need to write for a simple agent. So it's an ID, a name, and basically the standard prompt template to be used. So with this code, you could already plug in your own agent into a tool or the Theia ID. Now, because this is so simple, we thought, hey, why don't we just let the user do that on the fly? And that's a feature that we just added. We call that custom agents. So what is the idea? Very often you might have custom workflows, custom prompts that you would like to execute in your workspace. And with this, you can basically do that. In a sense, it's a little bit like custom GPTs, these bots that you can define, but with access to your workspace, right? So pretty powerful to automate workflows. So let me show that to you. Now in the AI configuration view again, I can now click on Add Custom Agent, and this takes me to a YAML file where I can now specify all this. I will only modify the prompt here and say obfuscate the following code so that no human can read it. Preserve the behavior. It's hard to type here. Just like this. All right. And now, just by saving this, I have this agent available in my IDE, and let's check whether that works. So here I have my agent, and now let's provide it with selected text again. Something went wrong. I don't know why. It should obfuscate that now. That's why it's not released yet. But I hope you get the idea, right? So typically it would now just execute this prompt. And of course, this new agent that I just added is then part of the regular feature. So here I could now look at the prompt. I can deactivate it. I can choose the LLM, so it's fully integrated just like any other. All right. Yeah, coming to my last slide. Now, where do we want to go with that? We're currently actively developing on this. We invite everybody to download this, try this, provide feedback, and of course, if you have ideas, tell us those ideas, and if you would like to join the effort behind this, please feel free to contribute. We already received contributions. For example, the Olama provider was contributed by Typefox. We really want this to be an open initiative. If you want to learn more about Theia and Theia AI, there are a couple of other talks at this conference that I can recommend. For example, the first one about developing a strategy, how to develop AI tools. And the last one, which is specifically about how to build your own AI augmented tool. All right, and with that, I'm happy to take questions. I have one last thing to show. Now you can think whether you have any questions. One of my favorite features that has nothing to do with AI, but is super useful if you have a chat window in your IDE. And I think we are the only IDE that can do that. So this chat window is basically new, right? You didn't have this before using AI, but it eats up a lot of space. So where to move it? We can detach it and move it to the second screen. Very simple but convenient. And you cannot do this in most modern IDEs anymore. All right. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to see more demos, have any questions that you don't have now, please feel free to visit us at our booth, Eclipse Source. And now I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah. Sorry. We need a microphone.
About the workspace agent, is there a way to configure it or to customize it so you don't access, for example, a specific folder where there's sensitive data or something?
Yeah. Currently not, but that's a very, very interesting feature, I think. So the good news is these functions that I've shown you, like for example, get file, content, and so on, these are modular. So they are like they're contributed to the platform. So if you wanted, for example, a filtered file contribution, you can easily add that, and then you need a setting to configure that. So these things are maybe like, I don't know, 1 day of work, but and it's a very good idea to filter something out. Yeah.
I see that. I mean, if you're using like an LLM, usually costs money. Do you see the advantage of something flexible like this in saving money, or more in being always able to use the best thing for you?
Yeah, very good question. So both actually, but it's up to you. So I was using OpenAI latest model today, which is arguably costly. So I would say if I do development all day, that would cost me, I don't know, $4 or so, right? Because it's not optimized at the moment. But the advantage is I can switch to the very latest model, which I cannot do with the proprietary solution. So for example, last week I integrated 1.0, and then I can talk to the very latest frontier model without any issues. And when using proprietary tools, you always have to wait until they integrate the latest model. On the other hand, to answer the first part, in turn, I can bring the cost down completely if I host my own model, right? If I use a local one, or for example, if I have an own hosted node somewhere, then I only have to pay for this node, and those nodes can typically be shared by many, many people. So yeah. What we cannot do, obviously, is like there is nobody who provides this $20 subscription model. Yeah. But we're looking for a sponsor. So if somebody has an LLM and wants to sponsor users of the Theia IDE, please talk to me. Are there any more questions? All right, then thank you very much for attending this talk today, and I hope you enjoy the week. And again, feel free to talk to us any time if you have any questions, ideas, or anything else. Bye-bye.